Hey everyone, welcome. Today we are coming live for our newest edition of TGG Cares, which is where our group, the Tyler Goff Group, spotlights one nonprofit each month. And this month we are joined by Julie from the St. Francis House. So we just want to educate you guys on the St. Francis House, what they do in our community for the people of our community, and maybe how you can get involved one way or another. So Julie, thank you so much for joining us. You're like the I don't want to say senior person on the staff over there, but you've been with St. Francis House for 16 years.
Yes, just started my 16th
So you
year.
are the person that everyone goes to if they have a question or they don't know exactly what to do.
Yes, I kind of say I'm seasoned because
Seasoned, that's way
I've
better.
been through, even as we were talking earlier, some of the changes, even our community, of where landmarks used to be that now new projects are in, like the link that used to be Falls
Yeah.
Community Health, and oh no, it was the IT department. No, it was Falls Community Health. So yeah, I just say I'm a little bit seasoned.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's awesome. So for somebody maybe watching this that has no idea what the St. Francis House is or what they do, I think a lot of people would recognize that name, but maybe not know exactly what does St. Francis House do. So your mission is moving people from homelessness to hope.
Correct.
So what does that mean?
Well, we kind of go by the basic fundamentals. If you look at St. Francis, he was the saint that was there to help those that were cast aside or were looked down upon. And unfortunately, the homeless or individuals who have been in jail or prison are sometimes cast aside and fall through the cracks and are looked down upon. So the St. Francis House, we are an ecumenical ministry to the homeless.
What does that mean?
That
Ecumenical.
we support every different denomination of the guests who are coming to our doors. Some may have no faith at all, and we do our best to introduce them to different opportunities. We have some that are Catholic, Lutheran, and we have some that are of different cultures. So for example, our Native American culture, they believe in a different spirit, but they do their sweats and their smudging and things like that. So, we really try to be that melting pot of welcoming people into our home and no judgment of what happened prior to them coming into our home, but want to give them a sense of hope that they can rebuild their lives, even for how difficult and maybe some of the not pretty things that they have done to family, friends, and the community as well.
Yeah. So really trying to give them a place where they can feel like and truly get a fresh start,
Correct.
A new beginning.
Right.
So tell me maybe some stories.
Sure.
You've got some awesome stories.
Sure. Well, I'm going to tell one of my favorite ones. This was many, many moons ago when I was probably, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years into my role as the director. And I had this gentleman walk in front of my office, and he was a big, burly guy. I know he just came from the prison because he had kind of the jumpsuit and it was tied around his waist, and he had this big gray beard down to almost to his knees. And I was like, oh boy. And he came into the house and he had this gate check from the prison. And if you don't know what a gate check it is, it's your release check that they give to you at the gate.
Okay.
So I called a gate check. And he said, nobody in this town will help me because I need to cash this check so I can get a birth certificate from California, so I can get a job, and so I can rebuild my life. And I said, well, you know what? You landed in the place, and we're going to be here to help you. And I will tell you, it's not the easiest thing to get a birth certificate from California, but we did it.
I can imagine.
And his name was Wallace Chandler. He went by Buck. And so we helped Buck, and he got his birth certificate, got a job, was then able to save enough. He was working at Marlin's up on North Cliff.
Yep.
And then he got a car, and Buck stayed with us for a year. And then when he left, he moved into his own apartment in the community, and he would come back one Sunday a month, and he would make breakfast to order for everybody. So if you came and you wanted banana pancakes, he made you banana pancakes. And if the next person came up and they wanted an omelet, he made them an omelet. Totally destroyed my kitchen, but but that was Buck. And then, sometimes they get you because unfortunately I got a phone call, and I remember I was dropping my daughter off at elementary school, and now she's 20, but and I got the phone call that he listed me as his emergency contact, that he had passed away. And Buck did not want to be buried in South Dakota. He wanted to go back to California, but he said he had no family. Well, Buck wasn't telling the truth. Long story short, we found his sister. One was in California and the other one was in Nevada. And they came home, and Buck had won one of our Instrument of Hope Awards for our fundraiser. And they didn't want to take it because they wanted me to find his son, Adam. And and Buck was great. He was one of those that if he made sure all of our kids at the St. Francis house had tickets to the circus, could go to the zoo. He bought all of those things. And I think that was Buck's way, or his penance, that he felt that he was not a father to Adam, that he would do this to the other children at the St. Francis house. So for 12 long years, we have been trying to find Adam.
Really?
Oh, wow. I mean, it was, and his sisters, they were helping me as well. And all of a sudden, I got a phone call from his one sister. Well, I was getting this Las Vegas number, and I thought maybe it was my car warranty,
Yeah,
Anyways,
it expired.
Side joke there, yeah. But anyways, she finally left me a message, and she called, and she said, I found Adam. And the only reason we found him was 60 days ago, he created a Facebook page.
Oh my gosh.
So I got to talk to him, and I was able to send his dad's award to him. And so it's those type of things that even if a guest has left us, and unfortunately I've had to lay many guests to rest, we always want them to have that sense of peace, and for him to have that. And, so, I mean, that's just one of many stories.
That's awesome.
But, unlike today, we had a young lady who, she stayed with us. She unfortunately got herself in some trouble and was in prison and came to stay with us. And she did what's called an interstate compact. She wanted to leave the state of South Dakota to go home to Massachusetts. And she did that. And we have one leaving tomorrow. Kind of similar situation, but she has been with us for a year, and she worked a full-time job and a part-time job. But the check I wrote for the one gal today, she left with $19,000, and the one who's leaving tomorrow, she's leaving with $25,000.
Wow.
Now understand, both of these ladies have paid off all of their debts. They know nothing to the state of South Dakota. They worked very hard, and that's when we can kind of literally, on these two ladies, we can send them off and watch them spread their wings and fly, and really know that they came to us hopeless. And now that they've left, they know that they've paid these debts off, and now they have this light of hope that I tell people is so priceless. It's an amazing gift, and we have some people that it doesn't always take the first time. For example, we are in our 30 days of thankfulness, and the guests have written out what their 30 days, what they're thankful for, and we post it out on our Facebook. And I have one that's coming up that's pretty moving. His name is Mark, and Mark has stayed with us. This is his 5th time coming to stay, and he said he just didn't know what it'd be like this winter because he was staying in his broken down vehicle. That's where he was sleeping and going to work. And but he said, you know what? I came to the door and I was welcomed. I didn't have to
Even
feel.
though it was his 5th time.
I didn't feel that, you guys were judging me. You welcomed me in the door. And I think that's the crucial part. Is I always tell all of my staff as a learning is there's only one person who gets to judge. And that's the man that's way upstairs. And it's our responsibility to allow them into our home so that they have a place to stay, and that we have to remember that with the decisions that they make, I always use the philosophy, no one's going to hit a grand slam the first time you get up to plate. And if you do, wow, you are someone that's pretty special. We've all stumbled. We can all look through our life and say, wow, you know, I wish I would have done that differently.
And I think we can all look back and point to someone or a group that gave us another chance, maybe when we didn't even deserve it.
Well, we were given that sense of forgiveness. And, you know, it's something that sometimes say, oh, yeah, you know what, they said they're sorry. That's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is the ability to let them see the action that they did and to know that they can release that and it's now gone and we move forward. And it's about not looking at the stumbling blocks and all of those things. Like when you look at a toddler that's walking for the first time, you're not looking at, oh my gosh, Sally fell down 4 times before she could walk. You were there encouraging. And that's the sense that we have to do with the individuals. The ones that break my heart probably are the most are the ones that are standing on our street corners with signs. Because I have, for one, that has reached out to the city and said, we can do better than this. We need to do better than this. You know,
and that community, it feels like it's growing in the last 12, 16 months. For whatever reason. I want to go back. You mentioned these gals that got out of prison, came, lived at the St. Francis house. Now they're leaving. You said one of them got a check for $19,000, the other one for $25,000. I'm sure some people are hearing that and going, how the heck did they get $25,000? What did they do? So maybe explain, you know, that person that comes from prison, looking for that fresh start. What is the process with the St. Francis house? What does that look like? Do they just live there for free and you pay them, or how does it work?
Well, first and foremost, when someone comes to our door, most of the time they're coming with the clothes that are on their back. So when this community is so generous and gives us the donations of clothing and coats for like Keep Kellerland Warm, that's imperative, because when that person comes in, they are immediately given 6 pair of pants, 6 shirts. We believe in new undergarments and socks. We're just a firm believer in that, because that's a dignity.
That's important.
And so that's where they start right there. Then the next step is to see, do they have their proper identification? So we have worked a relationship with the Department of Motor Vehicles where we have a standing appointment every Friday. So for example, this Friday we have 3 people who are going to go get their ID. Because, you know, the philosophy is, well, if they just work, well, you know, it's not that easy. If you don't have your birth certificate and you don't have an ID, you don't have an address, it's pretty hard to get those things moving, because, you know, I don't know if anybody else has been to DMV lately, but you got to take everything.
Try not to go.
But your youngest child. And most of our guests don't have mail. Or they don't have a bill. So, you know, they take a form letter from us verifying who they are. So then the next step is actually the most easiest right now is for our guests to get a job. Because we have so many employers calling us every day because they know that we hold our guests accountable. Because if they don't go to work, that employer picks up the phone and calls us. We go find them and say, okay, come on, let's go to work. We'll give you a ride. You overslept, let's go. But then when they get that first paycheck, we establish an account at the St. Francis house for them, where 100% of those funds go into the account. So
you control it, essentially. Or so, maybe like an escrow account.
Kind of.
Almost.
So let's say that you were a guest and you got paid, and let's say your check was $600. $300 of your check is frozen. That's money that you cannot touch. And I always chuckle that I've heard every reason under the book to dip into that money. And I always say, you know, I have 2 kids at home and they don't get by me. You're not going to either. So, but
that's
then
why you're the vet. You're the 16-year vet that you go to when you need a tough love.
Well, and it's amazing because, you know, they have lots of great reasons, but I say, you know, let's tap into our community resources to be able to utilize that. Then of the other 300, then that's their money that they budget for. So there is a small fee to stay at the house. Then whatever their needs are that we don't provide. Now understand, we provide free laundry is in there, 3 meals, all their personal hygiene, that's all covered. So if
a lot of what they actually need, or a lot of what they need just on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah. Their basic needs are met between what the St. Francis House has and what's been donated to us.
Yep.
So then they will meet with their case manager and they'll do budgeting. So, for example, if they need a replacement phone card for their phone, because some of them do the phone cards,
Yep.
then if they're going to $50 for that phone card, then they have to pay $50 on debt. And we all have debt.
Yes.
And we, the goal is that we eliminate that debt, because when it comes time for them to move out, and if they're moving out into an apartment in our community, well, first of all, if they owe Excel Energy money and they have to pay that bill, Excel Energy is not going to turn on the lights for them.
Yeah.
So now what have we done? We have just put a Band-Aid on a bleeding artery. We didn't solve the issue. So the whole goal is to be paying off those debts while they're at the St. Francis House, because they can stay with us up to a year. And then once they get those goals set and they go through our program, then the time is when they move into the community. Then one, they use that frozen money to pay their rent and deposit. And then with all the wonderful donations that we get, we have a storage room that we call Narnia, which is kind of like
Nice.
from the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's never ending, but it's very organized. And they make a list. And then, for example, we had a gal that left last week, and she had a list of all the stuff that she liked, and we were able to fill almost everything on that list because the donations that come to the house that we store, and it's everything from dishes to pots and pans to bedding to all of that stuff, because those are the most expensive
For when
things.
they leave.
Yep. So when they leave, they get they can make we call it their wish list. And we do our best to fill as much of that as we possibly can, because then they've had their rent and deposit paid. They have their apartment furnished. We work very closely also with the furniture mission, and so that they have furniture for their apartments.
Yep.
And then we're able to know that they're going to be a greater chance of success than if we just do, here's your check, best of luck, hope everything works out.
Yeah.
That's not what we're about.
Yeah. So when they leave, ideally, if they've gone through the program and not just left on their own, but ideally they're debt free.
Most of the time, yes.
They have a big chunk of money saved up.
Right.
They have furnishings enough to kind of go and move into a new place and have the essentials that they need.
Right.
And they've gotten a job.
They have a job.
They've gotten the ability to maintain a job because of the ID and everything else you described earlier. So they're really, I mean, like you said, from homelessness to hope.
Right.
I mean, that I would have to imagine that day that they leave, just mentally, emotionally, probably even physically, they're just in such a different place than the day that they come.
And I always tell them I never say goodbye. I say I see you later.
Yeah.
Because the next time I want you to come back and visit, just to give us
a
an
volunteer,
update,
maybe.
a volunteer or update, or quite honestly, right now I have 2 of my employees are past guests.
Wow.
I have a time period that they have to be away from the house. And it's amazing because when guests try to do that, well, you don't know what it's like. They say, let's go sit down and let's have a cup of coffee. And I'm going to tell you, I've been in your shoes and I know what it's like. And then the other blessing is we have been donated vehicles. And so for those that can get their license back, we're able to pay forward a donated vehicle to them.
Wow.
That all they have to pay for is the transition from the St. Francis House name into their own name. And most of the time the vehicles are a little bit older, but we always say 4 wheels are better than 2 heels.
Yes.
And but
especially this time of the year.
Right. And so when we're able to have that as the ultimate opportunity for them, is not only helping them get into their apartment, but when you think of the cold weather, many of our guests ride bikes, or they ride the bus, or they walk, and the ability that we can help them to that next step, that they can have a vehicle, it is a pretty amazing thing to be able to do.
So items that somebody listening again that could donate, we could donate. Do you do any used items? Or is
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We take a lot of used items, used clothing. Right now, we, of course, are taking coats for the Keep Kelloland Warm because we are supplying coats for about 19 agencies. So they'll put in a request to us. Our staff and guests fill those orders, and then they come pick them up. So like the banquet, Bishop Dudley, Department of Corrections, parole, we do our best to be able to help people, especially people also who are coming out of jail. You have to remember when they were arrested, it might have been in July, and they went in on a t-shirt and shorts, and now they come out and we're looking at that awful letter that starts with an S and ends with a W coming.
Yeah, we don't talk about it.
Yeah, I know, I don't like it either. But so we want to make sure that people are prepared so that no one also freezes in our community. But, we are always in need of cleaning supplies, toilet paper, of course. And I'm also a firm believer that we don't waste. And so we get, some people will bring in, it might be a bottle of floor cleaner that they thought they'd like the smell and they don't. Don't dump it. Don't bring it to us because it'll clean our floors. We're firm believers in that. We're blessed that when people have events or when there is a funeral that the leftover food comes to the St. Francis house because those sandwiches we use for our guest sack lunches. So we always just believe that, people who are generously thinking of giving to us, we're grateful. And if there's items that come that we don't need, then we call our friends at the other agencies. If we get a bunch of baby stuff and we're not going to use it, we'll call Sandy at Teddy Bear Dad and say, hey, Sandy, we have a bunch of stuff. We're going to bring it over to you.
Awesome.
Because that's what donors want to see is the agencies coming together and working together and utilizing the resources that we all have.
That nothing goes to waste.
Correct. Nothing goes to the waste. So, and that's a good example of, if we get a ton of excess food that we're not going to use, especially like some of the produce that we had, we were bringing that out to the Friday food giveaway so that it wasn't going rotten, where we could also give it to people so that they could be able to have that produce. And so it's important to share the wealth when you get it and not just hoard it, because I don't believe that that's the Lord's way of us all surviving.
Well, this is honestly why we're doing this, because I think there's so many people out there that want to help and maybe even have this idea in their heart of doing almost what you are, what you do at the St. Francis House and Children's Inn and these different nonprofits. That there's so many good organizations in Sioux Falls.
There are. We are blessed in this community.
You don't have to recreate the wheel. If you want to help a homeless person, I think giving them $5 on the sidewalk maybe helps in some way, shape, or form. But like coming and bringing it to you at
or
the
bringing
St. Francis House.
Or even if you're going to communicate with that person, encourage them to go to Bishop Dudley or the Union Gospel Mission or the St. Francis House. That there are people there to help them and to understand that, everybody's not going to come in a shiny, pretty box. I love the movie The Blind Side. Sometimes we got to peel the onion layers back of our guests because they have been so protected for so long. And the system, quite honestly, has failed them. And they have to have that trust that they know that no matter what they do, even if they make another bad decision, it's not going to be that they're cast away again. That we've all made bad decisions. Oh, I shouldn't have eaten that candy bar, that extra Halloween treat, but, and that's a simple thing. But, I think in this crazy world that we are in, and we saw it a lot during the pandemic, is, let's just be kind, because nobody is given a day. I mean, we have to cherish what we are given. And I look at, put a little plug in for our 5th annual Walk a Mile, which is next Saturday. I was working with Madeline at Bishop Dudley and Carrie Benz and Brett Johnson at the county to get the list, gathering all the list of the names of the people who've passed this last year that were homeless. And it was really heartbreaking that we sat there and majority of them that we knew. And it's really hard that when you sit and say, you know what, I touched Victor's life, in the sense that he has stayed with us, or Charity, or, some of the people that we lost this year, and you just sit and think, wow, what could have done differently of if we could have reached out and maybe they wouldn't have overdosed or maybe they wouldn't have died of COVID. And, it just, it kind of puts things into perspective.
You can always do more.
We can always do better.
I just want to say what you guys are doing is awesome. We're lucky to have St. Francis House and people like you that are, a huge part
we're blessed
of it.
too.
And just what you guys are doing. Share one more kind of fact. You shared a number with me in debt that has been paid off in the last 5 years.
Yes, we hit in the end of summer. In the last 5 years from then, we have helped our guests pay off $1.4 million in restitution to South Dakota counties. And what that means is that is either legal or court fees, or it could be victim. If they, if they got into a car accident and didn't have insurance and the judge ordered that they had to pay that victim, then those victims were getting paid back. It's also back child support, not the current stuff because they're already doing that, but this is the child support that was adding up while they were maybe incarcerated or they weren't working. And then other debt, which is kind of like paying back landlords or paying medical debt or XL Energy, Mid-American. The whole goal is to get this debt paid off. And this year, for 2021, our goal is to hit 300,000, and I think we're going to hit it. We're averaging about $35,000 a month we're paying off in debt for our guests.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so much more than just a place to stay.
It's a home.
Rebuild. Yeah.
And I'm just going to kind of share a personal note of, I had my knee replaced and I was out for a bit. And, it's not just the staff there for the guests. The guests are also there for the staff, because as I came back, oh my goodness, the guests were like, oh my gosh, we're so glad to have you back. And how are you doing? And, it's a home. And that's what we really focus on. That's why the people who stay with us are guests. They're not clients. They're not participants. They're not inmates. They're not parolees. They're guests, because they're spending a time in our home. And we really focus hard on that it is a home environment where there's laughter. Sometimes there's tears. Sometimes there's heated discussions. That's why we never watch anything political at the St. Francis House. But, it can be that, they didn't want to go to work and they ended up getting fired and they were not happy about it. And then or my favorite was when one of the guests was on the phone with his mother and was cussing and swearing at her. And I said, you hang up that phone right now. And he looked at me and I said, and you will not get to use our phone again until you write an apology letter to your mother, and I get to read it, and then we're going to send it off to her, because they said you don't get to talk to your mother that way. So I am kind of seen as the mother.
And I hate this. Has anybody ever told him that person that? No. You know what I mean? And that's where I think we can look and say, how could you end up in that place? But they just need a Julie in their life sometimes,
fair, and consistent,
and somebody that can help give them some actual boundaries and some accountability to really teach them how to do life.
That is exactly it. And whether people are a fan of Dr. Phil or not, people seek structure. Kids do. They may rebel against it. But they're really seeking structure. And that's the same thing for our guests. And the gentleman, Brett, I said, did you get that letter done? Yes, it's in your box. And I said, what'd your mom say? Because we sent it. And he said she was amazed because he hadn't done that before. And so, here's a mother that has probably, between the love of a mother, we have the weight of Gibraltar on our shoulders that we just kind of take things. But it also taught her that her son has the possibility for growth and change.
It's given her hope.
That's exactly right.
Even
so when I said that the guests are here for the staff and the staff for the guests, it is also for the families as well. Because there's many families that have been a part of our agency for years because their children stayed at the house, and they just become part of our family.
Wow. I could talk for hours. This is good.
I don't like my job at all.
What? No, you can't tell how, that you're not passionate at all about what you do. I do want to say that's what makes organizations successful, is people that are helping and working and there that actually care and want to see them succeed. So we could keep going, but really check out St. Francis House. If you just Google St. Francis House Sioux Falls, find the website, get all the information on the, what's it called, Walk a Mile?
It's our fifth annual Walk a Mile.
Next Saturday.
Yes, we walk from the memorial, which most people don't know is behind the Lutheran Social Services on 6th Street. The Homeless Coalition, we placed a memorial for the homeless there many years ago. So we start there by saying a prayer, and we read the names of those that have passed. And then we walk the 1 mile carrying a backpack of 15 items that are on our needs list.
Yep.
And we walk that mile because many of our guests carry everything, and the homeless do too. And then we have some coffee and cookies and all that fun stuff. But then on November 30th is South Dakota Giving Tuesday.
Okay.
So then we take...
What's that?
Well, that's where people can give to all the nonprofits in the community. But we've always been a firm believer that it's great when we receive support, but we also have to do that as well. So then those backpacks, we kind of take them all apart and sort through them. And then we take what we need for, once again, for our guests, and then we deliver them to the other places. So we'll bring kids' backpacks to Horace Mann and Terry Redlin and Hawthorne, some of those schools, and we'll bring things to Bishop Dudley and the Mission and Children's Inn, that we share all of the things that we're given on the walk.
Wow.
Because this is the last, next week begins the Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week, and we end the week with our walk. And we believe that we also need to give back to and share the generous gifts that we're given for our event.
Wow. Awesome. If you're looking for a place to give to your time, your resources, your money, whatever it is, this is a good place to do it. And St. Francis House, check them out. Thank you guys for tuning in. Do please check out their website, sign up for the walk next Saturday, and just be a part of it in any way that you can. So thanks for joining us. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next time.